What's going on? We are back for another episode of the Cutman Podcast with your boy, Austin Carters. And man, is this episode going to be filled with a lot of football and a lot of sports. Exciting stuff. I mean, you got everything from the Combine to the NFL free agency that went absolutely berserk. You got the White House card for UFC finally dropped. And there's some really big names, you know. Was I expecting some of the names to be on it? No. And was I expecting a couple more? Yeah, but hey, still a stacked card. And anything can happen. Changes happen. Fighters pull out with injuries and whatnot. So we'll see where that goes. And the Reds sign a 12-year-old. We're going to get into it. I promise you that. So with that, let's just start. And hey, we're going to start with the Combine. Now, last week I missed just to give time to kind of keep up with the Combine, watch everything happen and whatnot, and yeah, it was good, but a lot of people sat out. A lot of people who I thought would, participate at least in the 40. Some usually do, some usually don't. It's hit or miss, and now there's speculation that people are getting frustrated with the amount of participants who don't participate. And I understand it because, I don't want to see you sitting on the sideline just answering questions. I think Jordan Tyson from Arizona State, the wide receiver, I think he sat out. Caleb Downs sat out. But there is reports that his medicals were concerns, which, this is NFL draft time, literally around the corner, so all this is going to come out to hurt someone's draft stock and allow them to fall to certain teams. But, I don't think anything's going to really be that bad in his career. I think he's going to get over whatever they say it is. I think it's knee injuries, degenerative or something weird. But, I think Caleb Downs is still the best player in the draft, hands down. That's just my opinion. And honestly, I think Sonny Styles is second, and he showed out during the Combine. So let's get into it, man. So for instance, you all know the last podcast, I talked about certain players I wanted to see work out. And hey, a lot of them bought out, but hey, a couple of them really they surprised me. I assumed coming in that they'd be decent, but their Combine was pretty good. Now listen, the Combine and all these stats and whatnot, and running a fast 40 and doing all these good drills and jumping high and whatnot, that's all fine and dandy on the field with no pads and just in a shirt and some shorts. But hey, when it comes down to it, you got to put them pads on. You got to show out, and you're gonna be a little slower. You're probably gonna have certain situations where you're not as mobile as you were during the Combine. So it is what it is. Now, the first player I want to talk about now is Sonny Styles. He did participate, and man, he blew away everybody. Sonny ran a 4.46 40. His measurements looked good, and every drill he was fluent through. And some say he's even top 5 now, and I can see it. I'd say he's still top 10, but I'd like to see him top 5, and it's the first time in NFL history, I believe, that Ohio State could have 4 players selected in the top 5, I think, or top 10. Regardless, I think top 10's guaranteed now, especially with Carnell Tate, who's the best wide receiver in the draft, in my opinion. Now, you can disagree all you want, but that's my opinion. But yeah, and then Arvell Reese, man, he ran the same. He ran a 4.46, and now he's heavier and whatnot, and hey, he showed out too, but here's the thing with that. I think he plays slower than a 4.46. I think Sonny Styles plays about 4.46. So, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe he comes out and surprises people, but a lot of people are saying Reeves is coming out as an edge, which I can see that with the contracts. Nowadays, you get paid more to be an edge rusher than you do a linebacker. So if he does that, cool, but I think his position's inside linebacker, a dominant run stuffer, so we'll see about that. Yeah, I think he's an edge rusher coming out of the draft just for the money alone. But regardless, he's still going high. And he might go number 2. And they're projecting to the Jets, which the Jets had a stacked free agency class come in. They really retooled that defense. So, maybe. Maybe not. Who knows? Or maybe they fall back in the draft with all the players they got and they pick up a couple more picks. We'll see. But anyway, we're going to stay with Ohio State, and we're going to go with Lorenzo Styles. It's Sonny Styles' brother, and he played DB. This kid comes out, and he surprises a lot of people. He runs a 4.27, and his drills were fluent too. Now, here's the thing. With Lorenzo, man, I think coming into the league, I think he's going to be like a fifth round pick, maybe 6th. I can see that. But I think he's going to be like either a depth player or B, a good special teams player. Like the speed alone, that's not good enough to just compete at the next level. I mean, ask John Ross, ask everybody else in between. Speed doesn't mean that you're going to be a really good NFL talent. So there's that. But yeah, the hype's now like he's moved up and everybody's getting excited and saying, oh, he's going to be great on this team and great on that team. And the boys think he's going to be, they'd want him on the Bengals, but like I said, he's going to be a good special teams player, maybe a depth piece. I don't see him starting. Maybe he's a developmental piece and he will start. I don't know. But, hey, I could see him being a really good gunner with that speed. And he seems like he's tough, and he can tackle. So, gunner, I'd be aiming for that gunner spot. Like, being a gunner in the NFL is tough, and you get respect regardless because you're always taking hits and chips and whatnot, and you're making plays. So, hey, if it comes down to it, I hope he's not, like, mad if, like, that's his career path. Like, just be grateful. But, yeah, then Drew Aller, man. I know I talked about him a little bit. But listen, he comes out and he does some really good throws and whatnot. Yeah, and I think he improved his draft stock slightly. This class with QBs, it seems like it's like terrible. But who knows? Maybe we see like a diamond in the rough or something like that. I really personally don't think Mendoza's all that great, and especially going to the Raiders. Now they have done really good in free agency to put a team around whoever they are going to take. And the word is that Tom Brady loves Mendoza, so we'll see about that too. You can't get carried away with all the draft buzz. Stuff happens. Sometimes surprises happen in the draft. It is it's all part of the game, But yeah, he comes out, throws pretty well, I would say. Now this is in shorts and all that, like I mentioned. But yeah, he threw good. Now I think he's gonna be like the second best QB in this class. He's gonna be fighting with, I think, Ty Simpson from Alabama for number 2, which that's not bad. Hey, that's not bad. Now, I can see him be like a 3rd to 4th round pick if he is QB2, because that's just the drop off in quarterback play. Mendoza's obviously going 1 to Raiders. They love him, I guess. And then, yeah, I would say, I don't know. Some people seem like they give up on Drew Aller. But honestly, I could see him being the second best player or quarterback in this draft, I should say. But only time will tell. Only time will tell. And hey, if he drops somewhere, let's say the Rams with Matthew Stafford and he gets to learn, hey, that's a good situation. So being number 2 quarterback or number 3 isn't always the worst. Sometimes you go to a better situation for yourself. But yeah, with that, I'm just going to move on to linebacker Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. Now, I would personally like to see him on the Steelers, especially considering our inside linebacker room. Man, I think it's time for Pat Queen to hang it up, or not hang it up, but go after this season. He's got 1 year on his contract, so I assume they're going to let him play it out. But the Cowboys have been in talks with the Steelers about him, but it seems like that's kind of died down here recently. So we'll see if he's even on the team and whatnot. But if not, hey, need for linebacker. But yeah, Rodriguez comes out and runs a 4.57 40, which I expect him to run about that because he's a big body linebacker, and he's not going to run fast, obviously, like some of these players. Yeah, and Honestly, I think he slightly raises draft stock with the drills. Now, I say slightly. He's already projected like a second round pick, so I could see him early second now to late first. And if you get him early second, I think that's a pretty good pick. Now, I think he can cover. Personally, I think he can cover like tight ends and stop the run at least. So who knows? But the only thing is with him and my projections of early second to late first is this inside linebacker class is absolutely insane. Like, you got C.J. Allen from Georgia, you got Arvell Reese, you got Sonny Styles, who some people were mocking him up as an edge too, which I don't get that. Don't do that. Like, he's an inside linebacker through and through. And there's others I can't even keep up with. This is a draft to build your team up, and especially the teams who didn't really do good in free agency, you can make up with that through the draft. Now, we got a lot of picks, so it's going to be an interesting draft class for us. I see us making some moves, though, because you can't always just draft everybody in the draft with your picks. Sometimes you got to use those picks to move up and get better players, which would be exciting because we put a team on the field this season with free agency, and it's going to be crazy. I promise you that. But we'll get into that. And then, Omar Cooper Jr., the receiver from Indiana. It was like Mendoza's number one, I guess, and him and Surratt, I guess you could argue. But he comes out, runs a 4.42. He looked good in his drills, and they're predicting that he's a first-rounder. Now, I don't think that's a smart pick as a first-rounder. I think second, maybe third-ish. I think that fits him. Like, I don't think he's going to come right in and be the number one receiver if you need that. And who knows? Maybe he does. This is just my opinions and whatnot. But we'll see what happens. Now, is he one of the best receivers in the draft? Sure. Is he top three? I don't know if you can argue top three. I mean, you got Cornell Tate. You got Jordan Tyson, or whatever his name is. I already forgot his name. From Arizona State. Then you got Mekhi Lemon. I don't even know if you say it Lemon or Lemon. Some people pronounce it weird. Who cares? But he might honestly hurt his draft stock. I'm not gonna lie. The way he was taking interviews, he's like some possessed dude. He's like looking through and talking like weird. Like, I don't understand that. Like, just come out there and act normal, my guy. He's out there like looking people in the eyes and whatnot. And they say that hurt his draft stock because he butchered the interviews, which is a big part because they want to know your character, and to see that, man, good luck to you. But I still think his talent speaks for itself, so maybe not. Maybe he falls a couple picks, if that. Who knows? But yeah, Omar Cooper Jr., I think he's going to be a decent receiver. I think he's going to be a really good 2, honestly. If you pair him up with somebody and he comes out there and he's a 2, I think he could route someone up and give you give you a little yak. I don't know if he's really that kind of receiver, get yards after carry or catch, but who knows? Maybe he surprises me. And then the safety from Oregon that Cody put me on to, man, who I was going to pay attention to. We got another one. We got the Cooper DeJean, Reed Blankenship, Riley Moss. We got us another one, boys. We're building our team up. We got a white DB, which I say that because white defensive backs in the NFL usually are slim to none, Here recently, the last couple of years, we've had a couple, and let's just be honest, it's their athletic ability, White guys aren't that fast, or, sometimes they're strong and tough and whatnot, but they're usually not that fast. So to have a couple in the league, that's clutch. But yeah, Dylan Dynaman or Thieneman, whatever his name is, these names in this world, man, are crazy. But he comes out and he runs a 4.35 40, which that's what I'm talking about with the speed. The kid has speed. Surprised a lot of people, including myself, with the drills. He looked real fluent. Looked like he has really good hands, and change of direction looked pretty good too. So who knows? Hopefully the Eagles don't get him, man. You can't replace one white guy with another white guy, because Reed Blankenship ended up going to Texas, but we'll get into that. we'll get into that. And then, like I said with Jordan Tyson, didn't run a 40 and nearly broke. He did do like the benching with the reps and stuff. And some people are saying that they shouldn't count because he didn't have like certain body parts on the bench at all times. And, I understand that. But like I said, he didn't come out and he didn't do any drills or whatnot. He just did the measurements and all of that stuff. So I assume he's going to probably focus on the pro day, which a lot of players do. But yeah, like, man, why even show up? Like, I get the interviews and whatnot, but do the interviews and go home. We don't want to look at you on a camera and, see all these players just standing around. We want to see players who show up. And if you're given the opportunity that people aren't, you should want to be grateful and use that opportunity. But who knows, man? People these days just don't care. And Mekhi Lemon, he didn't run a 40 either. Like I said, he scared away some with his draft interviews. And I'm projecting him late first. Probably in the mid-20s to early 30s. But hey, who knows? Maybe people kick the tires on it and they're not as scared as others when it comes to the interview part. But I don't know. Maybe. And Cornell Tate, I mentioned him being the best receiver. Now, he ran a slow 40 at 4.53. But listen, other 4.5 receivers in the league include Jackson Smith and Jigba and Puka Nacua. So, like, if we're going to talk about that, or not Puka Nacua, Puka Nacua and Jackson Smith. What's his face? Egbuka from Tampa Bay. Like, there's so many great wide receivers in Ohio State. I get them mixed up sometimes, especially the names. But yeah, they ran 4.5s and they look pretty legit. Now I expect Egbuka to take a step up, even with a crazy rookie year. I see him get more targets and whatnot with Mike Evans leaving town. But yeah, they all ran 4.5s too. So the fact that he ran a 4.5 shouldn't scare anybody. And I think, honestly, and this is my opinion, I think he runs or plays faster than that as well. And he's going to be a sure catch kind of guy. He's going to route you up still at 4.5. And like I said, I think he's going to run faster at his pro day. We'll see. Usually guys go in and they fix like mechanical issues in their 40 times and whatnot, and they come out and run better. And there's going to be absolutely every scout in the league at Ohio State's pro day. I promise you that. So they'll get to see that. Still the best receiver in the draft. And hey, if y'all want to say, oh, he's slow and whatnot and let him fall at 21 to us. I would be grateful to have Cornell Tate, which is not going to happen, let's be honest, especially with us acquiring Michael Pittman. But yeah, that went crazy. Like I said, Caleb Downs didn't work out. Medical records were leaked, I guess you'd say. And people were trying to get up and have him fall to him, which I guess it's smart, but it happens all the time. This is nothing new. Doctors are saying that it shouldn't be a problem and he should be able to have a good NFL career. So don't let that scare you. He's an all-around great talent to have. And, man, it's just grateful for being able to watch him the last few years on the Ohio State defense. So trust me when I say this, you're getting a dog whoever gets him. And then, hey, another player I didn't really talk about was Joe Royer, the tight end from UCE. He ran a 6.5 and had some good drills. He looked like he's more of a pass-catching tight end. Now, I didn't pay attention too much to him this last year or previous years with that. But could he block? I could see him being able to block with his frame and whatnot, especially for a 6'5" tight end, And tight ends coming out nowadays seem like they're just hitting. Like you got Trey McBride, who's a dog, and he's jacked and tall and whatnot. He's probably the number one receiver for the Cardinals. If you want to argue that with Marvin Harrison, so be it. But then you got people like Brock Bowers, just absolute freaks coming in. It's not that hard to find a tight end nowadays. Like, there's some really talented tight ends in this league, and they're only going to come. And, Joe Royer, I think he's the next one. like I was mentioning, though, I haven't paid enough attention to see if he's a good blocker. Now, I know he's a good pass catcher, so I assume he's going to be that. Hey, if Kansas City wants to find Travis Kelce's replacement, perfect opportunity. Hey, UC tight end. Hey, let history repeat itself. But who knows? Now I can see him being like a 4th or 5th rounder. I think just being at UC, now his talent to me is 3rd round, but 4th or 5th is where I project him. I think tight ends in this draft class are pretty decent too, so they'll be hit or miss on that. And yeah, speaking of tight ends, man, Kenyon Sadiq, the Oregon tight end, who's actually ripped, man. He came out and ran a 4.39. Now, that's the fastest ever for a tight end at the combine. So, he's got some wheels on him. Now, he is for sure a pass-catching tight end. He's not going to really block much. But, I mean, you got your packages where you can bring him in and out and see where that goes. And, yeah, I think he's going to probably be the first tight end off the board. I assume he's going to be probably a late first to early second, depending on if you want to take a tight end in this draft in the first round with how stacked it is. I'm telling you, it's that crazy. But we'll see where he goes. I'm sure he's going to play well, given the right situation. Now, other freak athletes at tight end have included like a Noah Fant, who hasn't panned out, but he is a serviceable vet in this league. And yeah, he just left the Bengals and he went somewhere. I can't even remember where he went. I'm sure I'll have it, in my notes and whatnot. But yeah, he did that and looked really well. And yeah, we'll just see what the draft brings, which it's right around the corner, which is exciting. We're gonna have a big episode for that too. We're gonna talk about probably like some of the big picks. I can't go into every pick. There's too many of them, but maybe like the first round. Maybe we'll talk about the first round and a couple other rounds or something like that and see where that goes. But hey, excited for that draft. Excited, especially after our free agency class, which we're getting ready to get into. So we're gonna see who gets the best dogs in the draft after signing some dogs in free agency. Now, there's a lot of moves going on, and that's just the NFL. And as soon as the window opened, man, there was all kinds of stuff. And I'm going to start it out, of course, with my Steelers, who I keep saying they had a good draft or free agency class. Let me just tell you this. We traded for Michael Pittman. We traded like a 6th rounder, I believe, or something like that. Let's see. What do I got written down? I didn't even write that down because I don't even care about the picks. It was like I think a 6th for Michael Pittman and a 7th, or like a 7th for Michael Pittman and a 6th. It was crazy. And then we signed him to a 3-year deal, which I think was a good deal. And a lot of people were like, Michael Pittman's kind of starting to get washed. And I was like, no, he's not. And you're bringing in Michael Pittman, who was a 1 in Indy, to be a number 2 in Pittsburgh. So he's going to get a lot of mismatches in this league. And, hey, man, regardless of who the quarterback is, now Rodgers hasn't came out and committed to us. He hasn't said if he's retiring. Rodgers does this. And, honestly, I'd like to just run it with Will Howard. You're building this team to where you could just insert a quarterback, and he's going to be pretty good. And I think that's what teams should do, honestly. Just a side note, I think teams, instead of building around a quarterback, I think they should worry about building the best team and then putting the quarterback in there to try and strive. You had like, I want to say like the 49ers did with Brock Purdy, because they had weapons like Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and such, and then they added him, and he was really good. And a lot of people, they downplay his talent like he's some just absolute terrible quarterback, which he's not. And that's just the NFL today. You're not going to have quarterback play like Big Ben and Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. I think those days are over. They're a little more athletic, and they're going to run a little more, and their passing is going to be a little iffy. But hey, you gotta adapt to the new age. So, but yeah, we get Michael Pittman, which I'm excited for. So you got DK and Michael Pittman. Now we're going to need another receiver because Calvin Austin ended up going to the Giants. We got Roman Wilson, so hopefully they give him some time and see if he puts some good stuff on the field. And if not, you can always draft a receiver in this draft, and just as a precaution. So we'll see there. And we lost Gainwell, Kenneth Gainwell, our team MVP, but we picked up a dog and arguably had better stats than Gainwell. And Rico Dowell, and he's a running back from Carolina who went crazy. He had I believe it was back-to-back. But he had at least 2 games with 200 yards from scrimmage this past season. So, hey, we got some dog, man. And I like that move. To pair him up. So our pairs are like DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman. Then we got Jalen Warren, Rico Dowdle, or Dowdle, whatever his name is. And then you got Freiermuth, and you got Darnell Washington, which is insane. You know how Darnell's 6'7", But, yeah, it's going to be crazy. And these moves are getting done. I'm like, man, as if they can't do anything else. They go and sign Jamel Dean, the corner from Tampa, who can also play safety. I paid attention to him last year, and he's a dog. So to get him paired up next to Joey Porter Jr. was an absolute steal for us. And we didn't pay him that much either, I don't think. But, hey, we did what we had to do to get him. And then whatnot. You go and you also re-sign corner Asante Samuel Jr., which he's going to be probably your third, probably your slot. I assume he's a little smaller. But, hey, he's a dog, I'm telling you. Is he like his father? No. But, hey, he's still a dog, man. So to have those 3 as our corners, and then I assume we're going to draft another one or 2 or sign them. Who knows? But to have them, that's stacked. And if that's not enough, then we go and do things like re-sign Cole Holcomb, who I like, who's a serviceable vet at inside linebacker. Last year his first season back from, I believe it was ACL surgery. I could be wrong with that, but first year back. Obviously, with those injuries, you're going to have a year where you're just like mentally, you're kind of iffy and you don't want to get hurt again. So, and your play's going to hurt too because you're going to be a little slower, obviously. But coming out like that and signing those guys is a smart move, in my opinion. And then you extend Cam for 2 years, which I love. That shows that Cam's kind of buying into Mike McCarthy, and he's willing to give us a shot to win a bowl the next 2 seasons, which with this team could go there. And then yesterday, man, if things couldn't get any crazier and more exciting, we go out and get Bears safety Jaquan Brisker, I believe, who's a former teammate at Penn State with Joey Porter Jr. So I know he's excited. But, man, we got us some dogs on that secondary. We got him pairing up with Deshaun Elliott. Oh, we got Ramsey, too. I keep forgetting about Ramsey because he usually played safety last season, but he can probably switch back and forth, too, which is insane. That's just to forget about Ramsey just shows how many dogs we got in that room now. But, yeah, Deshaun Elliott and Brisker together in the back half, I think that's going to be pretty good, man. Now, they say Brisker's injury-prone, so we'll see. But, you got to stop with the injury-prone. Stuff happens. People get hurt in a physical contact sport, But, yeah, man, it's going to be exciting for us. And I'm not going to spend too much more time on that with us. But I'm going to get on to staying in division with the Ravens. Hey, man, the Ravens, I don't know what's going on over there. Like, y'all are selling. Now, the Ravens lost a few players, and when I say a few, like some really good players, like starters. And so the word on the street was a couple days ago was that they were getting Crosby for a first this year and a first next year. And, well, a day later, the trade's, backed out of by the Ravens, which this is not their first time doing that. You get them backing out on that, and they get their first-round picks back. And as soon as that happened, because I seen the market for Trey Hendrickson, he wasn't getting signed, and it was lowering. As soon as that happened, I told the boys, I said, I could see y'all signing, or I could see the Ravens signing Trey Hendrickson. And sure enough, they come out and they sign him to a 4-year deal. And it's like, man, y'all really y'all really did that. Which what happened? Like, they could say what they want. They tried saying they were going to pair up Hendrickson with Crosby. That's not the case at all. Let's be real. What it was, they seen Hendrickson's market was a little better, and he wasn't getting the offers that he wanted. And they were like, hey, let's keep our first rounders. So Crosby's got an injury that they say he's going to probably be healthy enough or in time for. And they seen his injury with his medicals, and they go, nah, we want our first back. You can keep him, which is insane. You know, Crosby, I think, is better than Trey Hendrickson when healthy. And if you were going to pair the two up, why didn't you just go on with the trade and then allow Hendrickson to play and dominate while Crosby got healthy? Yeah, little iffy there. But yeah, man, the Ravens did that and whatnot, and that's about all. They lost a lot. And then we're going to get on to the Bengals. Bengals signed Edge Boye Mafe from Seattle, who Seattle lost a lot of players. They signed Brian Cook as well, who is a UC Bearcat, former UC Bearcat. Now, getting him from Kansas City, I'm sure they're ecstatic about that because they don't like him. Or like Kansas City, I should say. But I think he's a good one. I just think, man, I think this takes him out of the running for Caleb Downs. And if you were to ask me, I think Caleb Downs is better than Brian Cook, personally. But yeah, they signed him, and then they re-signed fan favorite Dalton Risner, who's a guard. I think he did really good last year. I think I've seen something where he only gave up like 1 sack the second half of the season or something like that. But hey, I know y'all like that part. And they go in, they get Jonathan Allen yesterday, I believe. So they added another piece to that defensive front. With Brian Cook, it should be decent, but I don't know. They're going to have to address that defense still in the draft, I believe. And then they lost Joseph Asai to the Jets. I thought he could have signed a 1 or 2 year deal and gave Shamar Stewart a little time to develop, but it is what it is. So yeah, there. And then they lost Jake Browning to... Where did they lose Jake Browning? I can't remember where they lost him to. But it was a weird team. It's like, why would you go there instead? But I don't know. But yeah, maybe it's Tennessee or something like that. I'm probably wrong, but it is what it is. And then the Browns, Hayden, man, I don't know what y'all are doing. They signed mostly offensive linemen. You know, they go out and they sign or traded for tackle Titus Howard from Houston. I can't remember exactly what they gave up. I want to say a couple picks. Then they signed guard Zion Johnson from the Chargers, I believe. Signed center/guard Elton Jenkins from the Packers, who I think is decent. And then they signed linebacker Quincy Williams to replace Devin Bush. These are some moves that, like, they're smart in terms of the offensive line because you lost, like, most of your offensive line. And then replaced Devin Bush, which I think Quincy Williams is good enough to do. Now, their true, like, star linebacker is going to be the rookie from this year, Swessinger, I believe. He's going to be legit, I think, as long as he stays healthy. Like, injuries happen, so to think that it could happen, it could. But, yeah, it's not bad. Titus Howard, I believe, was really good, so we'll see where that goes. They're still not stopping TJ, though. Let's be honest. But, yeah, they're not bad moves, but I expect them to sign, like, a receiver or something, you know? They got Jerry Jeudy and Isaiah Bond and a couple others, but I think Malachi Corley, who's decent, like, he's a good returner, and he's really good with after the catch, so we'll see where that goes. And then the Bills, man. We're going to move on to the Bills. Stay in the AFC. So mostly I'm going to start with the AFC, then get to the NFC, and then whatnot. But, man, the Bills come out, and they traded for DJ Moore and a fifth, and they only gave up a second, which you could argue. If the fifth wasn't involved, I'd say a second was too high or too much. But with the fifth involved, I think it kind of balances out because Buffalo's second is probably going to be a late second, I assume. Wait. Yeah, it should be a late second. because they had like a late first and then the late second and late thirds and such forth. But yeah, they do that, and then they signed Edge Bradley Chubb. So they didn't make too many moves, but they made moves for like really good players. Again, they're gonna have to do something in this draft to make up that defense. Regardless of Bradley Chubb, they traded away Teron Johnson. I think they're best corners, so that's a little iffy. And they've had trouble drafting corners, so we'll see where that goes. They do have Maxwell Harrison from Kentucky. Is he going to be good? I don't know. I haven't paid much attention to it. Some people said he looked decent, so we'll see that. And then the Dolphins, man. Dolphins, Noah, my little brother, that's his team. And he's been hyped some of the moves. And their biggest move was Malik Willis, who signed a 3-year deal. And he's supposed to be the best player on the market, they said. I don't believe that. Now, with this offense and a new head coach, maybe they can figure something out. But yeah, man, Malik Willis, he's iffy. He doesn't got a lot of film. So I think that's where a lot of teams are like failing to contain him, and he showed out because you don't have a lot of film on him. So I want to see what happens when they do get film on him, and see what happens when he's in that offense as well, because they do still have some dogs. They got Jalen Waddle. They have Devon Achane. They went and signed Tutu Atwell and what's his name? Robert Tobert, I think, the receiver from Dallas. So, man. But they did lose some pieces on the defensive side with Bradley Chubb to the Bills, obviously, in division, which is crazy. But then they traded away Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Jets for a 7th. Now, they acquired Minkah in the Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith deal with us. Oh, which reminds me, we released Jonnu Smith, which is crazy. So he's on the market. See where he goes. But yeah, anyway, back to the topic. They traded him, which I don't know. I don't know, man. Maybe they didn't believe in him or whatnot, but a 7th for Minkah, that was a steal for the Jets, and I believe they signed him to an extension. I could be wrong. But, man, we're like, what are you doing over there? Like, I get you're going to have to retool the roster, and especially releasing Tua, too. You got a lot of dead money, so I could see getting out from under contracts, but still, you got to have good players. And then they go and sign Edge Josh Uche for 1 year. I can't remember where he came from. I can't remember. I want to say it was the Patriots, but I could be wrong. I really can't remember where he's from and whatnot. But 1 year isn't too bad. Maybe he's a trade chip at the deadline if he does good enough. That's somewhat likely with those kind of deals. You sign players to 1 year deals, and they're like, "Hey, you're just a rental, so we can get like draft picks for next year and stack up." So pay attention to that. And then we're going to stay into the division with the Patriots. Their biggest signing was Romeo Doubs for 4 years. So they said he was the best receiver on the market. And you can argue that and whatnot. But to get him to replace Stephon Diggs, who they released, I think it's a good move. Now, I do like Demario Douglas, I believe his name is, the receiver for New England as well. I think he's going to be a nice number 2. You got Booty, whatever his name is. He's like a number 3. He didn't really do too much, but he made some clutch catches late in the season. And yeah, they went and signed guard Elijah Vera Tucker to 3 years as well. Signed defensive end Draymond Jones, former Buckeye, I should say, to 3 years. And then signed safety Kevin Byard to a 1 year deal. He's a little older, but I think he's still got some talent in him. And we'll see with that. I don't think it's going to be that big of a move. Guard Elijah Vera Tucker. Hopefully he comes out and he does well. Now, I don't know. I assume he's sliding into right guard or replacing a rookie at left guard. I don't know. I assume they want to develop the left guard and slide him in at right, but who knows? The NFL's weird. But yeah, I think that was a good signing. Honestly, I think they were good signings. I think they're really good signings, especially Draymond Jones for 3 years. I'm pretty sure he was traded to the Ravens at the deadline last year. So to get him out of the division, I love that. But yeah, that's a good move, in my opinion. Elijah Vera Tucker, I think, was a good move. Worst case scenario, he's an expensive backup. It happens. But yeah, let's see what Kevin Byard does, especially with Christian Gonzalez. And their defense was pretty good. And I'm pretty sure Kevin Byard played for Vrabel in Tennessee. I can't remember. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And he's a dog, so they get repaired. And then, we're going to move on to the Jets. Like I said, they had a stacked free agency class. Their biggest move was trading a sixth for Geno Smith and a seventh, who Geno Smith was drafted by the Jets. So to get him back, and I think it's going to be decent. I think it's going to be bring a little more talent than like a Justin Fields or Tyrod Taylor. So they might have found him a good, reliable quarterback. Maybe revamps himself like a Sam Darnold, and maybe who knows? Maybe the second opportunity in New York does wonders for him in that franchise, because that franchise has been terrible. And they ended up signing a lot of players, but the one move that really stuck out was tagging Breece Hall, franchise tagging Breece Hall. It's like, you can't get a deal done with him, but you can sign all these free agents, which made no sense. And he even took to Twitter or something, and he's like, "Oh, it's good to see all these players getting contracts," and he's being sarcastic, because how do you not have the money to sign your running back, but you have the money to sign these guys? But I assume a deal is going to get done eventually, probably before the season, I'd hope, because you don't want him sitting out. And then, like I mentioned with the Bengals, the Jets ended up signing Edge Joseph Ossai to 3 years. To be a starter on that team, I think he could bring a little talent. I think he should be more like a rotational piece with them, as in where Cincinnati, he was actually familiar with the system and whatnot. So by the time he gets up to speed with the system, I'd assume he'd be decent, but he'd probably be a rotational piece. They signed him because they traded edge Jermaine Johnson for defensive tackle Tavondre Sweat with Tennessee. Now, I think it's a good move for both teams. Now, Jermaine Johnson, I believe a year or two ago, he had a season-ending knee injury, and he came back last year. I think he's going to be doing wonders for Robert Saleh on the Tennessee defense, which I believe Saleh was his head coach when he was drafted. So reuniting them two, I always like seeing that, because coaches know who they like and whatnot, and know who's going to show out for them. But to get a defensive tackle is pretty good. Now, you could have just kept Quentin Williams. I'm not going to say anything else about that, but, you did trade him and Sauce Gardner. So, how do you get all these, how do you make all these moves and you traded them away? They're arguably better than the moves you made. What? But, yeah, then they go and sign their former linebacker DeMario Davis from the Saints for 2 years. So he gets to reunite. So it's like a big homecoming over there in the Jets facilities. But, yeah. And then we're going to move to the Texans, man. The Texans traded for David Montgomery. That's their big thing. Their big deal. They traded, I think they traded the Lions got a guard or a tackle and a couple picks, which for the Texans, good for you, man. I think getting David Montgomery and going out and bring a little run game to that offense is going to be crucial. And then they signed tackle Braden Smith to 2 years. Re-signed Danielle Hunter for 1 year, $40 million, which is insane. But he did do really good, so we'll see how that pans out. Then they signed Eagles safety Reed Blankenship to 3 years. Reed just said that he felt really wanted in Houston, and that's why he chose Houston. And I'm sure it's going to be a decent loss for the Eagles. I'm not sure he's necessarily all pro, but he does put on some good play. And then they signed other players too, including their own. They re-signed. So they had a good little free agency frenzy. And listen, with all these moves, there's still time to make more moves. So don't get caught up in the it's over. because it's not. Trades can still happen. A lot of signings can still happen. There's a lot of good players still out there. And then we're going to move on, stay in that division. The Colts, their big move was re-sign Daniel Jones after franchise tagging him. 2 years, $88 million. Personally, a little overpaid. But, that's the Colts. They re-signed Alec Pierce to a massive 4-year, $114 million deal, which is basically why they got rid of Michael Pittman to us and basically made Alec Pierce their number one, which you see Bearcat, go, man. Go do your thing, get your bag, and ball out this season. But a move I didn't like was they traded linebacker Zaire Franklin to Green Bay for defensive tackle Kobe Wooden, which I don't even know that dude. Like, if you know me, I know a lot of NFL players, and that guy, I don't know who that is. Like, but I do know Zaire Franklin's a dog, so to give up on him, I'm sure is like probably a salary cap dump or something like that. Who knows, man? This team's kind of weird. And then they signed veteran edge Arden Key, which it won't be that big of a deal, I don't think. He might get a couple sacks here and there and a couple pressures, but it is what it is. Then the Jags, man, they're kind of selling this time. Now they did I think they re-signed Jacoby Myers not too long ago, so a lot of moves have panned out to where they have to factor in with that. And with those moves, they signed veteran running back Chris Rodriguez, former Wildcat, I should say, 2 years, $10 million. And the reason they did that was because they lost Travis Etienne to the Saints, which that's going to be a big hole to fill. And there are plenty of running backs in this draft to get one and whatnot, and there's still running backs out on the market. So who knows? We'll see how they replace him and whatnot. But yeah, that was the first time. It'll be the first time since their freshman year that Etienne and Lawrence won't be on the same team. They were teammates at Clemson. Or no, it's the first time they will. I don't know. Because there was a year where Etienne stayed in college or something like that and then came out. But they were teammates in college. They were teammates in the NFL, and now they're no longer going to be teammates. So that was the first time for that since high school. That's what it was. And yeah, that's all only moves. Kind of pathetic, but we'll see what they do in the draft. They still have a good roster, so we'll see. The Titans, their big deal was Wan'Dale Robinson, former receiver of the Giants, 4 years, $78 million. Signed guard Cordell Volson. I know Bengals fans are excited to get him out of town. They said he sucked. For 1 year, $2.5 million. Signed defensive tackle John Franklin Myers, who the Bengals were rumored to be interested in. 3 years, $63 million. Traded a seventh for defensive end Solomon Thomas from the Cowboys, which, I guess. Solomon Thomas is a really good vet. Starter, I don't know. Rotational piece, definitely. Then they signed corners Alontae Taylor from the Saints, Cordell Flott from the Giants, I believe, and then Joshua Williams from... I don't know. I don't know where he's from. I don't even know that dude. But yeah, they didn't have a bad time, and with the new head coach Saleh, they're predicted to probably go after Jeremiah Love in the draft. So get Wan'Dale, who's a slot, so they're going to need another receiver. They did lose Chig Okonkwo, though, their tight end, who I really liked, and they signed Bellinger, I think David Bellinger from the Giants, which he's not going to replace him. I promise you that. But yeah, they made some interesting moves, and we'll see where they go. They did unveil some new uniforms that were kind of slick, kind of like a Oilers type throwback, but I think it's going to be their every week uniform. So if that's the case, that's going to be really slick to watch. But you got to win in those uniforms too. So, but we're going to move on to the Broncos. They didn't really do the Broncos really just re-signed their own guys. I mean, they re-signed J.K. Dobbins for 2 years, $20 million, and others, including Alex Singleton, for 2 years and $15.5 million, which is a really good linebacker. That's a good signing. But sometimes it's just like that. You just got to re-sign your guys and go to the draft and see what happens. They still got a really talented roster too, so we'll see where that goes. Then we move on to the damn Chiefs, man. I know Bengals fans are mad at this one. Their big signing was Kenneth Walker, one of the first players off the board in free agency. He signed 3 years, $45 million, and then he re-signed. They re-signed Travis Kelce for 1 year, $12 million, so he's committed. They re-signed Tyquan Thornton, 2 years, $11 million, so he's committed too. And then they go out and sign safety Aloha Gilman from the Ravens, 3 years, $24.75 million. And then they signed defensive tackle Kairis Tonga, 3 years, $21 million. Defensive tackle from the Patriots. So, yeah, they had a good little thing with Kenneth Walker. Like, I can't believe they got Kenneth Walker, man. That's terrible for everybody. But it is what it is. Now, what we are going to get into is the Raiders. And we're going to try to speed it up here a little bit to get into other stuff before this episode ends. The Raiders, man, they had a really good class. Signed wide receiver Jalen Naylor. He's going to probably be their number 2. Signed center Tyler Linderbaum. Got him out of Baltimore, which I liked. He's solid. So to revamp that offensive line's clutch for Mendoza, I assume. Signed edge Kwity Paye from the Colts, which he's decent. $16 a year, though. Then they signed linebacker Nakobe Dean, 3 years, $36 million. Signed linebacker Quay Walker from Green Bay. So that linebacker tandem is going to be pretty solid, in my opinion, and I like it. Then, like I mentioned earlier, they traded for corner Teron Johnson in a 7th for a 6th. The Bills, I think, lost that trade, but we'll see what happens. And they also re-signed, like, Eric Stokes, their corner. But, yeah, some really good moves to prepare for the draft and get Mendoza, have a team around him. That defense has struggled here recently in years, and I think it's going to take a step up with all these signings, so we'll see. And then, like I said, they also get Crosby back, so that's a plus. Chargers didn't really do much. Signed center Tyler Bidaz or something like that. Weird name. 3 years. Signed fullback Alec Ingold from the Dolphins. Now, his brother, Jim and John, love their fullback, so that was no surprise there. And then they signed guard Cole Strange after losing Zion Johnson. So we'll see where that goes. Not much, but more like physical players, I should say. So, maybe something happens with that, maybe not. I think they're going to plan on using the draft as their piece, but maybe they sign a couple more now. Moves could be being made right now as I film this, so we'll talk about extra moves next week or so. But then you got the Cowboys re-signed Javonte Williams, franchise tag George Pickens for $27 million a year. He was ecstatic, which good luck with that. Traded a 4th to the Packers for Rashawn Gary, so they got a decent edge rusher now. Is he replacing Michael Parsons? Absolutely not, but who knows. And then they signed P.J. Locke, which is an underrated move in my opinion, to 1 year. And yeah, they just re-signed 2 of their guys, really, and then got 2 defensive players, which their defense sucked. So, sorry, Tyler, but hopefully this helps them a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, I hope they got a lot of picks, personally. But then you move on to the Giants. They signed Isaiah Likely, tight end from Baltimore, to give him his time there, and they signed fullback Patrick Ricard, which is also from the Giants. They signed linebacker Tremaine Edmonds from the Bears. They signed cornerback Greg Newsome, I think he's terrible. He was with the Browns last year until he got traded to the Jags. Now Isaiah Likely and Ricard, they're going to just follow Harbaugh to the Giants. That's not a surprise there. Yeah, not many moves, but they're decent. It's going to give a legit chance for Dart to take a step up, though. So that's good. Eagles, they didn't do much. They signed cornerback Tariq Woolen, 2 years, $15 million, and then re-signed Jordan Davis, which revamped that defense. Cornerback was needed. So now the corners are Tariq Woolen, what's his name? Cooper DeJean, and then Quinyon Mitchell, which is solid. You just got to replace that safety hole left by Reed, but I think they can do it, especially in this class. So good for them. Commanders, signing safety Nick Cross from the Colts. That's a good move, I believe. He was really good. Signed tight end Chig Okonkwo, a really good move. They signed edge Odafe Owe, good move. Signed edge Chason. I can't even pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to. That was decent. Probably a rotational piece, I would assume. And then sign linebacker Leo Chenal from the Chiefs. He was decent. I don't think he's like great, but he's decent at least. And then signed cornerback Amik Robertson from the Lions. So they had a decent class. They revamped their defense a lot, and tight end was really good. So good for them. But I mean, it's Commanders. You never know. Now the Bears signed former Bearcat Cody Bryant, safety, to a 3-year, $40 million deal. Signed linebacker Devin Bush. Then they traded a 5th rounder to the Pats for center Garrett Bradbury, which is a good move. Signed defensive tackle Neville Gallimore, I believe, from the Colts. And then signed wide receiver Khalif Raymond, which he's coming over from the Lions, divisional rival. So, man, they got some good moves. And then, which I like those. I think they're going to really pan out well. I think Kobe Bryant's going to have a tough task with replacing Brisker, but we'll see if he can. Now the Lions signed Isaiah Pacheco to replace David Montgomery. Not a good move. Like, getting an extra body in there, so be it, but he's no David Montgomery. Re-signed Teddy Bridgewater for the 30th time. Signed center Cade Mays, who I don't know who it is. And then signed offensive tackle Larry Barham. Really not too many exciting moves, man. And it's like you got head scratchers over there with the Lions. And then they also released Taylor Decker, their offensive tackle, because he asked for a release. So they lost him too, so it gets crazier. The Packers... sorry, I'm going to get some air in here. The Packers signed defensive tackle and former Steeler Javon Hargraves, which I think was a smart move, especially giving up certain players and whatnot. I think they gave up Kenny Clark in the trade for Michael Parsons last year, so he'll be there to replace Kenny Clark, which I like. I like that move for Javon Hargraves. Then they signed quarterback Benjamin St. Just, weird name. But yeah, I don't know who that is. And then the Jair Franklin deal, obviously, I like that. But yeah, the Packers didn't really do much, but I did like the Hargraves transaction. I think it's smart. And then the Vikings signed our cornerback James Pierre, who was solid last year, but we'll see what he does in a new system. Now the Vikings do have a decent defense, so it could pan out well for them, or it couldn't. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, good for him for getting the bag. Now the Falcons, we're going to move on to them. They signed Tua Tagovailoa for 1 year, which 2 left quarterbacks who are terrible was not ideal, in my opinion. And they go on and sign wide receiver Jahan Dotson, who I think is considered a bust, but, you know, it is what it is. Maybe they can get a little more out of him. They have got more out of Darnell Mooney and Ray McLeod recently, so who knows. And then they signed their former wide receiver Olamide Zaccheaus. These names are crazy, man, but he was solid for the Bears last year. And then they go and franchise tag Kyle Pitts to keep him in town. That was smart. Maybe Tua can get him the ball some. And then they signed kicker Nick Folk, who's on like year 50. I don't know what's going on there. But some iffy moves, but, you know, we'll see how they pan out. I think they have a high pick too, or mid pick. I can't remember. But yeah, staying in that division too, Panthers signed linebacker Devin Lloyd as their big signing. That was smart. That was a really good signing. Then they signed edge Jalen Phillips for 4 years, $120 million. Now he was a former Dolphin, so my little brother thinks it's like a terrible move, but we'll see how that pans out, man. I mean, it's not that terrible. especially with Cat going up every year. It's eventually going to pay out, but they're trying to add on to that defense that was already decent. So I assume they're going to be even better than last year. They signed center Luke Fortner, signed offensive tackle Stone Forsythe, and then signed one of my former favorites, Kenny Pickett, quarterback. Now everybody thinks Kenny's a bust and whatnot. I just think we misused Kenny, and were forced to fast track him and then get him time to develop and whatnot. But say what you want, I'm still cheering for Kenny. But yeah, Panthers made really good moves to improve their team, and then the division actually did, honestly, except for the Falcons. The Saints signed Travis Etienne, I mentioned that, for 4 years, $52 million, which is insane. Signed Noah Fant, which he's a good vet. I think Juwan Johnson is going to be a lot better, and he's still going to remain number one. Signed linebacker Caden Ellis from the Falcons, which was a smart move. He seemed like he was doing really well this year. Signed guard David Edwards for $15 million a year, so he's got to be good, but I don't know who that is personally. And then signed a punter, Ryan Wright, to 4 years, $14 million, which there was a couple of punter moves this offseason. I know Pat McAfee was excited about that. So, but yeah, then we're going to move on to the Bucs. Signed Kenneth Gainwell, which sucked for us, but we did get a dog. Signed linebacker Alex Anzalone, smart move in my opinion. Signed defensive tackle Sean Robinson, not familiar with him. Then they re-signed tight end Cade Otton, which he's a good tight end. Seems like he's unselfish, so that's always good to have in a tight end. And then their big move was losing Mike Evans. Losing Mike Evans, such a serviceable vet, and someone that's a fan favorite and a franchise staple. That's always tough, but they were never going to pay him the amount of money he got. I think he got upward of $25 a year, and for his age, he's dealt with a couple injuries, but who knows? They're obviously going young at receiver, and I understand it, but hopefully he balls out on the 49ers. It's going to be weird to see, but yeah. And then the Cardinals, they signed Gardner Minshew, backup quarterback. They released Kyler Murray, I think yesterday, who went to the Vikings. I guess they're giving Brissett the keys for a year or two or something like that. Then they signed our guard, Isaac Samalo. So we got to replace him in the draft at guard. 3 years, $31.5 million. He had some comments, but it's like, hey, man, you got put on your ass in the playoffs. I watched that. You got, manhandled, so I wouldn't talk too much. Then they signed running back Tyler Algier from Falcons, who's really good too. They re-signed James Conner, or reworked his deal or something like that, and they got that as a 1-2 punch, which was solid. And they also signed wide receiver Kendrick Bourne, who had a decent season last year for the 49ers. Was kind of reliable. So we'll just see where that goes. That wide receiver class or room is a little underrated in my opinion. But if you know, you know. And then the Rams, we don't got many more of this. Then we're gonna move on. The Rams, man, they came out and traded a first, 5, 6, and 2027 third for cornerback Trent McDuffie. Now some say they overpaid because they signed him to an extension as well, which you can argue. But he's a top cornerback in the AFC last year, and at least to me, y'all can argue all you want. At least to me he was. And to get him paired up with that secondary who they re-signed, and then to go out and sign his counterpart, cornerback Jalen Watson at 3 years. That was smart. He was really good a couple years back, I remember. Here recently it doesn't seem like he was. But, I mean, just because you're good sometimes good is not talked about enough. So we'll see how that pans out. They re-signed Cam Curl, Tyler Higbee, David Gessenberry, and then Quentin Lake earlier in the season. So re-signing them guys, I think was smart. So to keep that secondary together, like I mentioned, it was really smart. There's some dogs. I mean, I like Lake. I like Cam Curl. Tyler Higbee's an underrated tight end in this league. And Questenberry, he's like, I assume he's a really good lineman because their line seemed like it was pretty good last year. So good moves on their end, smart moves, honestly. And I don't know why they can't keep a first rounder, but they won't. They just trade it away. So if it works, it works, I guess. But yeah, then we're going to move on to the final two. We're going to move on to 49ers. Their biggest move is obviously Mike Evans. It should pay out really well. Now they're trying to come off Brandon Ayuk, I believe, and try and trade him. They got Ricky Pearsall and all the Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brock Purdy. So they got some really good dogs over there now. And but $25 million, you could question that. It's not even $25 million. It's more than that projected. Like the numbers haven't came out. I don't believe. Maybe they did, and I just didn't find the right article or whatever to look into. But yeah, I like it for him. Let him go ahead and get paid. They traded a 3 for the Cowboys. Osa Odighizuwa. I don't even know who that is. Tyler's going to have to tell me more about that. Sign offensive tackle Vidarian Lowe. Don't know him. And then they're open to trading Trent Williams because of his cap hit and reluctance to take a pay cut. So we'll see how that pans out. They need him, though. When healthy, he's one of, if not the best left tackles in the game. So hopefully they sign him and see where that goes. And then the Seahawks, man, they re-signed their receiver Rashid Shaheed to 3 years, $51 million. Re-signed offensive tackle Josh Jones. Re-signed cornerback Joshua Joby. And then like I mentioned, they lost a lot of players. Kenneth Gainwell, Tariq Woolen, Kobe Bryant, Mafe. Man, they lost a lot. So they're going to have to retool it in the draft, and hopefully a lot of their picks hit. But I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. Like I mentioned, they have to. They have no choice but to hit and whatnot. But, we're going to talk a little more about some sports and whatnot, and then we're going to get into it a little later. So the podcast this episode is mostly about free agency and the draft, but, we're going to include some other stuff. Like Miami, Ohio basketball, they finally lost. They ended up losing to UMass last night. I think it was last night or the night before. And then it was in the first round of the MAC tourney, so they're out of that now. And the question is, do they still get a bid? I don't see how you don't get a bid, especially going undefeated and only losing to one team. And I think they beat the team 2 times this season already. Now, the thing is, their strength of schedule is kind of weak. And it's like, yeah, but, they've been trying to play teams, and teams are refusing to play them and whatnot. You can't hate them for that. They did their work against the players they did have to, or teams they did have to play against. So you got to give them their props. And, man, I hope they get in. And if they do get in, that's that loss I talked about last time. You got to lose to understand where you're weak at and then fix. But they did win some close games throughout the season, so we'll see. Maybe they get in and they can go on a run, hopefully. Smaller school, hopefully they do that. And then the Reds end up signing some 12-year-old Dominican prospect, Julio Ramos. It's like, the question is, when is too soon? When is it too soon to sign someone like that? 12 years old? You don't even know what's going to happen in his life. Maybe he doesn't even like baseball by the time he gets to that age to where you can, draft him or whatnot. Or play him, I should say. So it's man, that's kind of a crazy move, especially for the Reds. I know, 16-year-olds and whatnot, they usually go after and try and get them on contract and develop them. But 12, man, I don't know about 12. I'm kind of iffy on that. Maybe he proves us all wrong and comes out and he's some legit prospect. Who knows? But yeah, there's that. And like I said, I'm going to speed it up a little bit I don't want y'all having to just be it's carrying on. And, but I got a couple shows and movies that I've watched recently that I want y'all to watch that I think is really good. Now, War Machine on Netflix, that was a really good movie. Alan Richardson, if you remember him from the series Reacher. He's a really good actor. He was in it, and it's basically like this platoon or something of Army Rangers who are like cadets trying to become Army Rangers, and they go in to like this, I don't know, like this course and whatnot, and they go through it, and then they gotta go like somewhere else. I'm not trying to give up too many details, but they're going to try to find like this objective and whatnot and reach it, and it all goes to shit because like a robot shows up and it's trying to track them down and whatnot, and they gotta fight it. It was actually a really good movie compared to what I was expecting. Like, I put it off for a couple weeks. I was like, I don't want to watch this, but yeah, it ended up being a really good movie. So if you're into like all that, I'd suggest watching it. You should like it if you're into all that. But yeah, and then I watched Marshals. Hey, Marshals, man. Riley Green still hasn't made his debut, but I'm telling you what, this has got potential to be a really good show. I like it because I like Casey Denton in Yellowstone, who's played by Luke Grimes. He's really good, and so far it's been a lot of talk. Like, there's been some action, but there's been a lot of talking in it, which people don't like. But hey, it's a movie or a series. You gotta expect that. And hey, season 2 is already announced. They're already coming out with a season 2, so a lot of people must like it. It had a lot of views the first 2 episodes, which is good because I want to see it do well. And then they announced Dutton Ranch with Beth and Rip from Yellowstone. That should be good. Like, everybody who watches Yellowstone probably watches it because of Rip and Beth anyway. But that should be good. They're like teasing that, so we'll probably get a trailer drop soon, and I'm looking forward to that and watching that and whatnot. Like, Taylor Sheridan can't miss, so that's gonna be really well. And seeing like where the storyline goes after Yellowstone ended. So, but yeah, I'd tell y'all to watch Marshals too. Marshals really well. But yeah, man, that was really good. Now the thing I want to talk about, the big thing I want to talk about, man. So this is crazy. So Luke Combs, he goes ahead and releases the song "I Ain't No Cowboy," and man, I'm telling you what, this man doesn't miss either. Like, I gotta have this song on repeat along with others for Luke Combs, and that made me start wondering, like, when it comes to Luke Combs, is Luke Combs like the country version of Rod Wave? And like, I get that they're two different types of music, two different genres and whatnot, but listen to this, man. When it comes to Luke Combs and Rod Wave, it seems like they both put their heart and soul into these songs. And it's like songs that, like, they never make a bad song. You gotta always have their song on repeat. Let's be real. And then, like, they're two guys who, like, you could drop into, like, a church choir and they can lead the thing. Like, they got some really good voices. And, like, do y'all think that too? Like, do you think Luke Combs is like the country version of Rod Wave? To me, he is. Like, you might not listen to country and you might not understand it, or you might listen to both and you might think so, but I think so. I think just putting their heart and soul into songs and the way they sing and how they, like, sound, like, amazing talents, man. And, like, you can't hate either one of them. And if you do, I don't know how. Like, such good singers and whatnot. So let me know what y'all think on that. I think they're both really good and comparable, honestly. But yeah, man, like, I ain't no cowboys. Like, really good song. I see where he teased it, and I was, like, really excited for him to release it. And he released it like yesterday or the day before at like midnight, and that was really good. So, man, just banger after banger with these two. Like, can't be mad. But with that, let's get into a little UFC. Like I mentioned, the White House card was released, but let's talk about one fight. There's a lot of fights coming up, and I'm not going to talk about them all today. I will next episode to break it down, make this a little less, shorter in the episode. But this past weekend, Max Holloway got destroyed by Charles Oliveira. 5-round decision, so he had hard to get through it. But Oliveira just wrestled him, which I mentioned. Max on his feet's better. Oliveira on the ground's better. And Oliveira just took him down a lot. And it just seemed like Max wasn't interested in fighting and whatnot. He did throw some really good shots, but hey, man, them wrestlers, you gotta be able to wrestle in the UFC. That's what it came down to. And a lot of people were discrediting the BMF title that Oliveira got, and I don't see how. I think when wrestling comes into UFC, it's a UFC. You got wrestling and you got boxing. Now Conor and Nate Diaz didn't like the fight either, but it is what it is. It happens. Like, of course you want to see him go to the middle of the ring and just throw hands, but that's not how it is always. So props to Charles Oliveira for not buying into the, BMF. You got to fight, like stand up. But he ends up coming out and beating Holloway, but Holloway will be back. He'll be in the mix again, hopefully. Especially when it comes to BMF title, he better be in the mix. But yeah, man, then you got the White House card, like I mentioned. And some of the fights on this card are stacked. Like, it's always going to be a stacked card, but now it is even better. The main event is going to be Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje dogfight. That could be, honestly, a BMF title fight, but who knows? 2 dogs and all of that for a title fight, five rounds. That's going to be pretty good. Then Alex Pereira and Cyril Gain. That's a dude who I poked Tom Aspinall and's got him having surgery every other week. So I assume Topuria is going to knock Gaethje out, though, or submit him, and then Pereira's going to win. Then you got Sean O'Malley versus Ayman Zahabi. I'm not too familiar with Zahabi, but O'Malley's my dog, so I'm going to rock with him regardless. Hopefully he can bounce back from previous losses. I think his last fight was a win, so hopefully this one is. Then you got Mauricio Ruffy and Michael Chandler. That should be good. Now, Chandler's lost a couple fights in a row, so I don't think he's going to win it personally. But who knows? Maybe something happens crazy that he comes out and shows something different. And then Bo Nickel versus Kyle Dacus. I don't know who Kyle is, but I know who Bo Nickel is, and he's a really good wrestler. And especially in front of Trump, he's definitely going to win this fight. So put your money on Bo Nickel. He's only lost like one UFC fight, and I don't think he's going to lose here. But then you wrap it up with Diego Lopez and Steve Garcia, who I don't know who Steve Garcia is, but Lopez is a dog. So I assume he's going to win. Now all these fights can go on, but you can have your fights come and go, and injuries going to happen and whatnot, and we'll see what happens there. But hey, stacked card, absolutely stacked card. I was hoping Conor was on it, but he's not. John Jones is wanting his release because he wasn't on certain cards, but we'll see what happens with that. See if any beef is there. So yeah, hopefully y'all's gonna watch that. Don't get too butthurt about it being at the White House. Y'all play politics too much, man. And then my last thing for today is, what's your definition of success? For me, success is when you set out some goals, or you want some things in life, and you work effortlessly to try and get these things, and you end up getting it. So, like, say you want to go to college and graduate college. You put the time and a lot of effort into it, and you come out and you graduate. That, to me, is a definition of success. Working towards a career that you want and doing that and getting that. I think that's another definition of success. And a big part is not giving up on what you want. That to me is the biggest step in success is not giving up. So if you don't give up and you fight effortlessly to get what you want and you end up getting it, I think that's the part of success. And honestly, with success though, comes a lot of ups and a lot of downs. You gotta take your downs with your ups, man. Like, it's gonna happen, and the downs are only there to help you grow and to show you that you can overcome anything you put your mind to and work towards. So, but yeah, man, like, let me know what you think about success. How do you define it? Like, is it kind of like the same like I'm thinking? Is it different? I'm actually curious. So let me know what you think, and yeah, man. Hey, listen, we are back. And if you can't tell that I love football, man, with the free agency and the draft, I don't know how else to tell you, but man, I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful to have these transactions to even talk about, man. And it's going to be a fun year, especially after the draft. It's going to be a fun year for football. A lot of unknowns for teams. You don't know who's going to be good, who's going to be bad. You don't know who, you can have like the bottom teams come up with the amount of moves that have been made. So let me know what your favorite moves of the free agency was as well and whatnot. And then later on when the draft comes, we'll talk about that more. And the combine, what'd you think about that? Was there players that I didn't talk about that you liked and thought were really good? Like, now the pro days are going to come up, so we're going to talk about that a little more too. And like I said, my dog Cyrus Allen from UC, I'm interested in seeing what he runs and how he pans out. So yeah, we're gonna wrap it up with that though. I hope y'all are doing well. I hope y'all are liking these and whatnot. I hope y'all are having a good time in life. And hey, one last thing though before we go, I did get out and did something interesting this last weekend. I did get out and went to the boys' game. So Tyler and Hayden's are softball, baseball coaches now, and we ended up getting to their first scrimmage of the year, and they ended up losing 10-9. But hey, they got a team that ended up fighting through and through. They were down early, came back to try and make it a good game. They didn't play a whole 9, so you can argue that they could have probably won that game. But hey, I was a scorekeeper. And what I mean by scorekeeper is like I made sure the scoreboard had the outs and the right strikes and whatnot and the runs and innings. So I did that. Check something else off, something I wasn't planning on doing, but it happened and it was actually a pretty cool experience. Didn't make no errors. Your boy didn't make no errors on that. So shout out to them for what's going to probably be an exciting season. I'm going to try and get back to a couple more games this season for them, show some support, because that's what it's all about, showing your people support, your friends, your family, and everything in between. But yeah, man, best of luck to the boys this season, and hopefully we can get some wins, and especially the ones I go to. So good luck and best wishes. But yeah, we're going to wrap it up, man. Like I said, I hope y'all are doing well. I hope y'all continue to do well, and I hope y'all like these. But yeah, until next time, peace.